That I wrote in my journal. We are on top of this beautiful mountain. Weather is unpredictable. Colors in the sky constantly changing into pictorial, glorious moment in time and space. Here you admire the peace. Quietness possesses you, and you are being filled with love to nature, to the simple life and earth we are living in. We spend time up here on top of this mountain in this beautiful piece of heaven. This is just a short quote that I wrote in my journal. So when I first heard about Alaska, I had no previous knowledge as for what I'm about to encounter. For me, Alaska was a picture of nature and beauty and wilderness, but nothing could prepare me for what I'm about to experience. Alaska was not just a journey, a trip or a vacation. It was definitely a journey, and for me it was a journey of exploration, but not only of the unknown, but also of the known. Things like family and people and intimacy and unity. In this journey, I learned the difference between a place where noise disturbs the silence compared to the place that we are from, where silence disturbs the noise. I remember the most distinct moment sitting on top of the mountain and looking at the horizon and realizing how small we are and in a way insignificant, in this big universe that we live in. In a way, we are just another cell in this body that called universe. Alaska, for me, seems like a place with constant battle. The most intriguing one for me was the battle in the sky. When you look, When you looked on the left side, you could have seen a beautiful sky, a beautiful sunrise with yellow and orange and red colors, very vibrant, very vivid. And those created silhouettes of the mountains and showing this land that is untouched and undisturbed for millions of years. And then when you look to the right, you could have seen gray clouds creating this darkness. You can literally see the water falling from the clouds and watering the land. And that was a magnificent contrast between darkness and light. And then when you look back at that, or look backwards, you see a beautiful glowing moon shining from the horizon. And the battle in the sky was the most beautiful one, and also created one in me, because I didn't know where to look. Everything was just perfect. The second battle that I've noticed was of humans. It was humans versus nature, or old versus new. We came to display people in their natural element, and they tried to somewhat create a normal modern society in the wilderness. The people there wore jeans, they rode four-wheelers, they had phones, and they had TVs. But that didn't stop them from being tuned and synced with nature. They were always listening, observing the land, the migration of the animals, the way that the water changed according to the climate change. They picked berries according to the season, and they wore clothes according to the temperature. The next battle that I've noticed was a social one. There was a battle to preserve the tradition and the culture in the tribe. The elders tried and fought to keep the youth, the language, the customs, the animal patterns, the land, and the youth struggled because they saw and they were exposed to what is outside. A world of comfortability and commonality and luxury. And there was not even one child that knew how to speak the language fluently. The next battle was my personal battle. I left with 14 other photographers, and we all come from a place of individuality. We all come from a place where we have different habits and different approach to things. And at some point I remember looking at myself and thinking, God, I'm so spoiled. And it was really hard to adjust at the beginning. For example, the Gwich'in people, they keep the door open. If you need something, if you want something, just come inside and ask for it. Over there, sharing is important. If you don't share, you probably won't survive. And in this isolated place, that's what kept them for many generations. I, on the other hand, come from a place where if you don't take care of yourself, mainly, you probably going to have a hard time to survive yourself. Now, in our modern society, it's to each his own, kind of. We take care of ourselves, we provide for ourselves, for our families. But over there, if you don't think about the others, you might have a problem. Hunters, for example, they go for a hunting trip and they make sure that they come back that everybody eats. Everybody gets his share, especially mainly the elders, because they depend on the youth for their strength and skills. As a group, we managed to come close to them. We prayed with them, we danced their traditional dances. We helped them build cabins for future use. Hi, Scott. We hiked in the routes that they are taking in order to grab and catch meat. And we helped them also build benches for the gathering. But that was just scratching the surface. That was not enough for me. I wanted to get closer to them. I wanted to know them more intimately. So I found myself at some point being addressed by Gideon, which is one of the elders of the village. He's a craftsman, he's a handyman, and he's the art person of the village. And Gideon asked me to come and help him pick rocks. Now I remember riding in his four-wheeler and thinking, wow, in this place, this action is called errands, you know? And I remember looking for the biggest rocks, for the most beautiful and healthy rocks, and I was so content and so consumed with the task that was given to me. And that was the first moment that I actually felt belong. It was a moment that I actually cared. I really cared about those rocks. My goal was to connect to the locals, like I said. I managed to do it in several ways. At some point I found myself in Gideon's house making a drum. A drum that is made from cow skin. This is the one. Now I was the only foreign among the natives. And I remember, as much as being foreign is not a new concept for me, I really felt different, but I felt belong. I felt accepted. I was part of them. Another way which I found myself connected to the people was by eating meat. I'm entering my 4th year of not eating meat, since I realized how it's come to my plate in a place like this, like New York or the Western society. But over there, it's a part of their culture. They survive on it. They depend on it. They pray for the animal. They care about the life of the animal. They respect it, and they're not wasting anything, like you heard before. They use it at all. And they make music instrument with it, they make clothing, and they make house decoration for it. Oh, with it, I'm sorry. Another way that I find myself connected to the people, I met this young woman which I had a connection with. Her name was Susan Martin. She was from a village nearby called Vinitai. She didn't like that village. She said people are mean and cold, and she always wanted to move to the Arctic. When I first saw Susan, she was cutting meat that was heading to the smokehouse. She took me to her place. She showed me the place she lived in. She showed me how they wash their hair with a place with no sink. She taught me how to play craps, the card game, which I had no idea how to do. And although we spoke different languages, we bonded. I mean, we both spoke English, but I spoke about things she cannot understand, like my love to big cities or the places I've been around the world. And she spoke about skinning an animal and firefighting in the woods, but still, it didn't bother us from bonding. Susan is a strong woman, by the way. She has a kid that she leaves behind in Vinitai when she goes and firefight and volunteer and do social work. Now, another way that I found myself bonding with the people, I found myself sitting with one of the chiefs of another tribe, which is on the left. And we were all passing the peace pipe among us. At that point, I wasn't anymore the white man or the photographer from New York. I was just another person in the circle. Weed is legal in Alaska, and they use it often to occupy their minds and to keep happy, I guess. Now, the downside of being in nature where it's not much excitement happens is that they have to find a way to occupy themselves. So they play bingo over the radio, they play cards, they smoke weed, and they drink. Now, drinking is a problem. It's frowned upon in the village because it's brought violence, and it creates a lot of things that they're not happy about. So it's frowned upon. And I remember the one night they actually invited me to come and drink with them. I declined politely, but that was the moment that I actually felt connected, that they accepted me completely. The highlight of my trip was when they gave me the name Kwaja in their native language, Gwich'en. Kwaja means munchies, but just because they couldn't pronounce my name correctly, Machi. So they said munchies, which turned into Kwaja. And that for me was the final stamp for the fact that I was accepted. And it was as hard for me to leave that place as it was for me to arrive and adjust to it. Now, I just want to say that by the end, Alaska was an exploration trip for me, where I discovered the people, the land, and myself in it. And if I wasn't a part of Guardia Community College, I would not be able to do this. So I'm grateful, and for that I want to thank you. Thank you.